Hello, I'm Mary V. Today, let's talk about how to practice properly. So just playing a piece through from beginning to end a few times is really a very poor way to practice actually. Because you're not really practicing what you need individually. So what you really need to do is break everything that you're playing down into clusters, very, very small little clusters of notes. And then have a look to see if the bowing and the left hand can be as clear as possible. Because your hand has to change shape depending on what it's playing. You have to make loads and loads of adjustments. So the more you can tailor your practice to your individual needs, the better. And just playing a piece through from beginning to end a few times isn't really going to do it. So what's really needed for proper practice? So the fact that there's so much to think about in violin playing that it's got to be broken down as well. So let's take a study that everyone plays, which is Kreutzer 2, and let's work out how we can use it to deal with various things that we actually need to practice. So let's take a look at the intonation and how to practice that. If we break it down into clusters of 4 notes, so that when we go to the E string, make sure that, for example, that your arm is moving a little bit underneath the violin, because it does help to be in tune, rather than to have your elbow in one position and you've got to play all the strings on that position, right? Without moving your elbow. So if you remember to move that, that can help. So if that's something that you always forget to do, then by breaking it down, you can actually have room in your brain to think of things like that. Like that. And then the next 4 notes. With my very short finger, I have to move my whole hand to put my 4th finger down. And I want to make sure that movement is coordinated and not late. So watch my left hand. A bit late there. So, and then you put those little clusters together. That's fine, and then go on to the next 4 notes. And what I'm really doing is I'm listening to each individual note to make sure it's absolutely in tune and that my fingers aren't sort of moving around or adjusting the intonation like this. You know, that I'm teaching my fingers to know exactly where to go first time. So you need quite a bit of patience for this. You need to have the willingness and the interest to be able to break it down as slowly as this. Now, there's a very important aspect of practicing, and the whole point about practicing is that you're teaching your hands to have to develop muscle memory. But if you demand perfection all the time and you have a bit of anxiety about that, right, let's see if I'm absolutely perfect, you're actually blending your anxiety into your muscle memory and it'll always be there. So because your feelings and your anxiety can get blended in and be a permanent part of your muscle memory if you're always rather anxious or overcritical. It's best to avoid that mindset completely because it'll always be there and you're just teaching yourself to have anxiety and muscle memory at the same time. So mindset is incredibly important when you're practicing. It's better to be in a state of experimentation and openness and freshness when you're practicing, rather than being overcritical and expecting perfection. Because you can't be perfect on the violin, but you can become more and more accurate. And how to do that is to trust when you're practicing, and you've done quite a bit of practice over one bit. And then when you try it out, don't expect perfection or start getting anxious. See if you can trust what you've been teaching yourself to do and stay calm. So having the ability to examine what is really going on, whether it is really in tune, that's what it's all about, rather than being critical or judgmental that it wasn't right. Just note what isn't going properly or didn't go right and set about putting it in little clusters so that you repeat in a very, very positive way without adding and embedding all these criticisms and negativity into what you're doing. So let's go back to the kreutzer, and you can use the kreutzer to produce very smooth bowing by playing a lot of notes in the bow. You can also use it to practice different kinds of bowings like this, hooked bowings. And staccato. So there's all kinds of ways that you can use one study. There's a nice Kaiser study, I think it's either 34 or 36, where you've got to do quite a lot of vibrato on the crotchet like this. For example, if you want to really look at the intonation of that, just play plain notes without the rhythm. So there's all kinds of ways to use the same studies to practice different things with your bow, your left hand, everything. But you've got to break it down, and then at a certain point you do need to build up a bit of stamina. And it's a good idea to play through what you've been practicing, but stay nice and relaxed and just take a note of things that haven't gone as well as you want. And just break those things down into really small clusters, and then start building up the clusters into longer passages until you're able to play it. So breaking it down and building it up again, and breaking it down and building it up again, is actually the key to practicing properly. And making sure that you don't have an overcritical mindset, which is very, very important, because you've got to stay fresh. You've got to listen to your intonation with very, very fresh judgment. And that means don't just play the thing straight through. Really break it down, and then you'll progress much faster. So I hope you enjoy your practice, and I'll leave it there. Bye for now. Bye.